Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan here to preview a very important as week 2 can be, but an important showdown nonetheless, Monday night at the Linc between the 1-0 Philadelphia Eagles and the 1-0 Minnesota Vikings. Should be a very good game. There's a lot of good storylines. It was a hell of a week in Philadelphia because the Eagles won a game and it sort of felt like they didn't for a lot of people, and just the way the discussions wound up going. It was good to have football back, though, Adam. It was good to remember what it's like when not everything goes perfectly and people storylines pop up like Howie Roseman in the meeting rooms and
well, I didn't put it in the rundown because we've known this is a non-story story. It made, because what it's also, as you said, it's a long week. Mm-hmm. It's so a non-story, but we're going to talk about it a little bit later. We'll crowbar it in there for 3 minutes. The last time was actually an issue was in 2020. We had some pretty significant reporting on this. Mm-hmm. Doug Peterson and his issues with the front office, the craziness of that Washington game where they screwed up the rotation of the quarterbacks.
Right.
We outlined 3 or 4 years ago Pumphrey, when the coaches want Pumphrey off the team and the front office did not. That happens in every front office.
It does.
Typically in this town, we overrate everything. We over dramatize everything because columnists need stuff to write about. I get that.
I don't want to also. Well, let's be fair. Let's put the blame on both. Right? Media does look for that. We're a part of it at times, but the Eagles don't do themselves any favors with how they run their operations sometimes. That would make you skeptical, right? Like, you're right. This goes on in other organizations too, where the GM sits in meetings, wants to know what players are going to play and how to, but not every organization also has leaders of the organization who make picks or influence picks or freeze their front office out while they're making picks. So in fairness, I got to say the Eagles got to sleep in the bed that they make as well, because not every organization does that. So it's a little 50-50 there, but this one, we've had reporting on for quite a while, and we can talk a little bit about it, but has nothing to do with the game. I think it's it's a great game to break down because, as I like to say when the schedule comes out in the off season, Adam, sometimes people act like the NFL is a static world except for the team that they root for. Like, my team made all these improvements and got better. So therefore, when you look at the schedule and you look at all the good and bad teams from the year before, you say, well, that team stinks and that team's good. The other team, they're trying to get better as well. And it may just be a change of a coaching staff, right? Or it could be significant personnel. But the Vikings were a team that I thought had really some good personnel, obviously had great spots. Now they've got a coaching staff. I picked them in our preview, our 2022 NFL preview on InsideTheBirds.com to win the NFC North because I like their 53.
Wow.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
I do. I just thought, and I thought the change of coaching staff would be a breath of fresh air for them. So, but I remember when people coming, like the Lions stink and the Vikings, they didn't make the playoffs last year. The Eagles are going to win their first 7 or 8 games. Like, people were saying that. And I'm like, whoa. Well, hold on.
and I'll say this about Eagle fans, particularly the people who listen to our show. They really know the league. Like, they want to know more than their team. Like, whereas the casual fan only cares about the Eagles. Mm-hmm. But here, the reason why we talk about so much about other teams, we have Greg Cosell on and preview other teams and so forth, is because the diehard Eagle fan is not just, he's a little smarter in terms of the league. They want to know what's going on elsewhere.
Yes.
And it's just the way we've started we started doing the show 5 years ago. We certainly are not going to change. We will talk about other teams. Yes, the majority of what we talk about is the Eagles, but the reason why we get Giant fans watching this division, Eagles NFC East division, where the Eagles are in, we don't just talk Eagles, and that's something that will always be our mantra, because we want you to be a better fan, not only of the Eagles and learn the game, but we want you to be up on things that are happening.
My favorite podcast series that we do every year is the off season with Greg Cosell previewing the entire NFC East, breaking it down by team. We know a lot, but also with Greg's insight, we learn so much more about some of those guys that Greg really likes who are drafted in maybe like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round. And he's got a few Vikings that he likes too. So that brings us to our pregame show. It's going to be Monday night, 5 to 7. We'll be at Rivers Casino. Greg can't make that, but we've got a special guest, Trey Thomas, who does the post-game show with us. Trey, Jason Avant, me, Adam are going to break it down 5 to 7 p.m. on our socials, our YouTube channel especially. And then after the game, it'll be late, but we're putting the work in, right? You, me, and
Right
Trey
after
Thomas
it, by
will
the
do
way.
post game.
Yeah, we're not going to make you wait a half an hour. It's ridiculous. We're going to do it as
after.
soon as the game's over. We're going live. So,
Yes.
yeah, we and then the next morning we'll have I assume we'll have the pod up. Next morning that'll be the pod of the show.
Yeah. So for those who were caught by surprise, and we'll just repeat this one more time, the post game show after the game on this Monday, but normally Sundays, right, is going to be the same as the podcast that you listen to Monday morning. Or just because why do two separate essential post game shows? We would just say the same thing if we didn't do it that way, so that one becomes the other. So just so that everybody understands that. And then when you're looking for it on YouTube, it'll be under the normal videos there, but it'll also be under live videos as well. If you're looking for the post game show / morning podcast. Adam did an awesome job. By the way, I checked it out. I checked the thread out. You were on for our Patreon subscribers, and it's a fast growing community. And we really appreciate everyone so far who has signed up. Adam on Wednesday night did an awesome chat. I'm sorry, Thursday night. No, Wednesday night. Wednesday night. Right? You just said, I'm open to questions. We answered your questions. So it becomes like an Ask ITB in real time there through Discord, our chat service through Patreon. So Adam's going to continue to do that on Wednesday nights at 8:00 p.m. Or
yes, Eastern. Okay. Every Wednesday, the rest of including the playoffs, Eagles better get the playoffs.
Right. And I'm going to jump in there next week at some time too. I'll let everybody know.
Cool.
So it's part of the benefits of being a Patreon subscriber. We're chatting with you all the time. I'm chatting with a lot of the Patreon subscribers during the day. Yeah. So we're also going to be doing very soon. Stay tuned for the announcements. Our first bonus show for Patreon subscribers. It's going to be kind of after 2 weeks. It'll be that Ask ITB live stream show where people can ask us questions while we're, literally not recording, but doing in a live stream, answering those questions and chatting about the Eagles kind of after 2 weeks. And then later this month, we'll do a roundtable show. That'll be another extra bonus show for our Patreon subscribers. So if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. Patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. And again, there'll be prizes at some point soon, tickets to see our pregame show, trying to build in as many perks and bonus exclusive content for our subscribers as we can without taking away what we already do for the masses. And that's all of our podcasts, all our pregame show, postgame show, and all radio interviews and things like that. So with that said, I think that pretty much covers everything we wanted to talk about in the opening segment. Oh, Q&A. I'm sorry. Yeah. They made a great debut. Fantastic show. They're back for the entire season. So Quentin Michael, Jason Avant are back on the Inside the Birds platform. They will have their podcast drop every Tuesday morning this season. So make sure you're checking that out. And they got off to a really, really fast start. And our man, Jason Avant, he's becoming worldwide. So he's doing Q&A. He's doing the pregame show with us. He's doing a Birds Huddle, right, on Comcast. He's doing a segment with them. He is the voice of Michigan football radio, the sideline voice of University of Michigan Football Network. So he is a busy, busy man, but he's doing an excellent job.
The side hustle. I know it well. Done it my whole career. Yep. Yeah, when I'm allowed to do it, when I was at ESPN, I can only do certain stuff, but yeah, we all got it. He's got his trampoline company.
I didn't even mention that. Yeah, Launch Trampoline in Deptford, New Jersey. Check him out there. All right, listen, also check out our friends, FreestoneFarmsCBD.com, if you're looking for the most all-natural, organic input of CBD that you can get. We love their CBD for when we're working out and we want to, feel our bodies, make our bodies feel better and not so sore, or when we're going to bed. Even better, just helps you sleep better at night. They've got amazing strains. They got a tropical tasting Biox. I believe Biox, it clocks in at 24.1%. We've also talked about the half Hindu Kush. Great stuff at FreestoneFarmsCBD.com. Use the promo code Inside the Birds, or ITB, I should say. Use promo code ITB, and you get 20% off at checkout. Folks, that's 1/5, I believe, in math terms, in fraction terms. So you want a fifth off of your CBD. You go to FreestoneFarmsCBD.com and use that promo code ITB. All right. Eagles, we talked about, had that Derek Barnett injury, ACL, out for the year. They did wind up replacing him with I called it a pretty shrewd signing there, signing a defensive end off the Vikings practice squad to their 53. And there's some not surprises with Jenarius Robinson, Adam. He's a guy who was, I think, a 4th-round pick, and he's got some traits. We've seen the Eagles do this now with the bottom of the roster and the practice squad, where they'll get guys like whether it's Marvin Wilson or somebody else comes to mind who was like a mid-round pick or a late pick who has some traits, and try to see what you can develop out of him.
And Marvin Wilson wasn't drafted, but I get it.
Oh, not Marvin. I think Jernard Avery was in my head, and because Jernard
no,
Avery,
they traded they traded a 4th for him.
Yeah, they traded a 4th for him. He had traits, he had that explosive.
Sure.
It never worked out, but they were trying to find that.
Well, this kid, it's funny. Earlier this week, I was on Paul Allen's show, the voice of the Vikings, who I've known for 20 years, and he said he says he knows it's spelled Jenarius, but it's Jenarius Robinson.
Right.
Which is what and I was like, really? Okay, cool, thank you. So he's a height, weight, traits guy. This staff didn't like him with the Vikings, so enough to keep on the roster. He was off their practice squad, so the Eagles signed him off their practice squad. He's on 53. Barnett placed on IR. He's done for the season with torn ACL. We'll see. Hopefully there was nothing else. So hopefully it was isolated ACL, the non-contact injury. Owoshika was signed off the Eagles practice squad to the Lions 53, so he's gone. And the Lions, by the way, one of the reasons why they did it, they need someone to play multiple positions. They are all sorts of banged up. Ragnow has 2 injuries. The backup guard who didn't play last week due to bad back was put on IR. They're really banged up.
Yeah.
3 of their offensive linemen plus Swift are on the injury report. So yeah, they needed to do something, and that will do it for the transaction.
Yeah, you can always tell it's week 2, right? When the injury list isn't that long, so that's good. And for the Vikings, it's not the injury list is not terribly bad as well. 2 of their rookies, the safety Lewis, it's Seen, right?
Seen, yes, Seen, first rounder. Who's a
Georgia,
backup?
Right? Yeah, first rounder.
Yes, he's a big guy. He was beaten out by Bynum.
Right.
Who's starting. So he has a bruised knee. Their hope is that he'll play this week. It was touch and go last week. They held out Andrew Booth through a quadriceps. They're optimistic both will be able to go. Remember, there's a practice later today and there's one tomorrow. And the final injury report comes off Saturday. Walk through Sunday, Monday night's the game. The weather, by the way, it's going to be very warm now. It looks like at night there's a small chance of storms. We'll see, but. And then for the Eagles, just Jack, the only player listed on the injury report with an injury is Jack Stoll. He should expect to go, as I understand it, barring a setback. He is their Y tight end, their number 2 tight end. He's important to what they do. Boy, did he play well last week blocking. He was really good.
Yeah, the blocking was excellent. Let's see. So Booth was also, I believe, a backup, right? He's not ready to start yet?
Yeah, he's not ready to start. And when you get into matchups, man, the more I dig, the more I ask, the more I get, the matchups favor the Eagles if they can protect.
Yes. Interesting note on the Vikings' ability to protect that we'll get to during the show. What's your big picture kind of takeaway for this game?
All right. So as we get into the matchups,
but just like big picture before you exit out town.
I would say like, okay, you've got the Vikings' first game on the road. This is outdoors, not indoors, where the crowd, there was a big rivalry game last week. I'm very interested to see how Kevin O'Connell and the club comes out with energy, knowing that this is the Eagles home opener. People are going to be out of their minds. I love it, man. There's nothing like going to a game at the Linc on a Monday night or a primetime game where they're the only game, and the expectations are crazy for this team. We'll see if they live up to it. And as you know this is a fact. People were pissed off coming out of the game. Fans were upset.
Yeah.
I get it. We understand. They should have blown the team out. It's funny. Another one is the bettors. Was doing TV with Scott Farrell. They blew the 17-point lead. The Eagles went up blowing the cover. So yeah, there's some gamblers out there who are not happy. So great energy. This should be. To me, my takeaway for this game as we break this things down is this is a pretty even game here, which could go a variety of ways because there's so many storylines in this thing.
Oh, I love it. I love what the point you're making. I believe I have to go check if the line has changed, but I saw on Bet Rivers, it was the Eagles favored by 2.5, which is an interesting number that suggests that they think that that the Vikings are the better team. Usually if it's even, you get 3 when you're at home, and the Eagles aren't even getting the full 3. So it suggests that they think that the Vikings are slightly better. I think my big picture takeaway is I think the Eagles have a better 53, but as we've mentioned before, it's really, only got 11 players on the field at one time, and it's really your first 22 versus the other 22 until all the injuries start to force backups into positions. And right now, both teams are fairly healthy. I think the Vikings may have the better 22 by a smidgen, by a little smidgen. As I looked into,
I would.
There are areas where the Eagles are better than like
clearly better on the
secondary.
Like, but yeah. So there are areas. You're right. The Eagles are clearly. It's not even remotely close.
Right.
On the offensive line, though, they're for the first time in many years, they're talented and very young. The Vikings are. We'll get to that in the matchups.
Right. But it's also, like, you could say, not remotely close either with skill position when you combine the wide receivers.
Well, obviously
Jefferson
is arguably the NFL's best receiver,
right? And Dalvin Cook.
But see, they're really now they're 3 versus the Eagles' 3 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll take Thielen is still good possession receiver. Osborne they didn't really do anything in week 1, but they like. But yeah, I mean, look, AJ Brown's an absolute stud, but the game isn't played like that. It's about scheme, matchup, and play callers.
Right.
Play calling's an art. We're going to get into that because I think there's some stuff that people need to be careful with when they talk about certain things with this game. We're going to get to it. Again, this is a very even matchup. I understand you said it was 2.5 for the Eagles, though my line would have been 4, 3.5 or 4. But the bottom line is this is going to be a fun one. And what I love is you have a new staff with the Vikings. It's completely different schematically, offensive, defense. You could be, it's just so different. And that's the beauty of it, because they only have one game where against the Packers, folks. Packers, both starting tackles were out. John Runyon Jr. got hurt with a concussion, didn't return. So yeah, they should have blown them. They should have absolutely housed the Packers offense. And they did. Good. They did their job. Now it's going to be a lot harder. On the road, hostile environment, outdoors. It's not going to be as easy as it was last week.
Absolutely. All right, Eagles offense against the Vikings defense. Defensive coordinator now for the Minnesota Vikings is a longtime defensive coach in the league, Ed Donatel. Yet another kind of branch from the Vic Fangio tree. I know he coached under him at one point.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah, a long time. So you can imagine that they're going to be doing some similar things that the Vic Fangio does that we sort of talk about with the Eagles at some point happening. We'll get into Eagles defense later, but
it'll be quarters. Yeah.
Just
real quick. It'll be quarters coverage.
Foundationally quarters. Correct.
But understand something. This is what explained to me on Thursday afternoon when I was getting a lot of intel on the defense. He goes, be careful. The guy that I talked to who's been in the league a long time, he goes, be careful of thinking every Vic disciple is the same. They're not.
Good point.
Play calling's an art. Vic is actually, a couple people with the Bears who coach with him told us, he's actually like a savant. Because it's his defense. He knows it better than everyone else does. So when you're running someone else's defense, you're not going to run it exactly the same. The integrity is the same.
Right.
But how you call the game and you call to the personnel that you have.
Right.
Again, not every defense is the same. This call's exactly the same as nonsense. It's not.
Right.
The integrity, yes, is the same. It's Vic's defense. Like not every Kyle Shanahan offense is exactly the same.
Sure. For not every Andy Reid disciple. I don't think Pat Shurmur ran exactly what Matt Nagy was running.
Right. So just be careful. Yes, they're going to run. They're going to run quarters coverage, but within that, it depends how he looks at the personnel. And Donatel was with him 10 years as a D-backs coach, then a D coordinator for him in Denver, and he's obviously very close to Vic. He was with him in Chicago and the Niners and Denver, but he'll run it. His version of it. This is always the way these disciples do it. That's the fascinating part. Yeah, sure, it looked like, and it was, it's his version of it last week, but 1 week to the next is not the same. And again, the matchups are different. So I learned. I had a very good talk with someone who taught me a lot on Thursday to be careful of just assuming these disciples run everything the same. I was like, okay, got it.
Good stuff. So let's talk Jalen Hurts versus the Vikings defense. I'd be very, very, very surprised if the Vikings pressured Jalen Hurts the same way the Detroit Lions did. I do suspect that they will try to pressure him, try to get him throw on the going to his left, making throws. But I would think that they are going to try to make him pick apart coverages more than picking apart blitzes, like the Lions tried to make him do.
Well, Yeah, the as you know, Fangio's he just doesn't blitz. That's his deal. And they win with the post snap disguise, make the quarterback hold on, and that's how they get the pressure. So I don't see a lot of blitzing now, unless, as you said, they take a page out of what Detroit did, gave the Eagles offensive line a lot of problems. It was typical week one. They're doing things you haven't seen. These teams don't show anything in the preseason. They just run plays that are, but yeah, I don't see blitzing a lot of it. Again, just based on the history of what Fangio does, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of it in week one. They didn't have to because they knew going in they're going to win with Bakhtiari out and Jenkins out, the tackles for the Packers. They had it going. They had the matchups. They should have won. I mean, it was kind of a layup for them. They got the job done. Give them credit for it. But what they're doing now is, because they've not run a 34. Paul Allen's not even sure. Like, I asked Paul, the voice of the Vikings, he guessed the 80 since they've run a 34. He's not even sure.
Wow. Now,
they got away with it last week. Their first game, they could do whatever they wanted because of the issues that, and by the way, the Packers are terrible at receiver. These young kids, as you pointed out to me, and I watched the play, the 75-yard drop for
Christian Watson.
Oh, terrible. He ran right by Pat Pete.
By the way, that made, I had a flashback watching that of Greg Cosell doing the wide receiver pre-draft show with us, hit the intel of Greg Cosell. And at a time when draft media was loving Christian Watson, Greg, I think, was the first person to say, and by the way, this isn't the kiss of death for Christian's career. He dropped the pass. We'll see what happens. But Greg said what stuck out on tape was he was a tremendous athlete who is just really learning how to be a wide receiver and does not have very reliable hands. I think he said he double catches a lot, or he just said something about his ability to catch the ball consistently that was not there.
What he said is he doesn't even catch it correctly. His hands aren't aligned well.
Right.
Now, at the Senior Bowl, he ran away from everyone, Christian Watson. I know we're talking Packers here, but we're just giving you an example of young receivers and what they have to deal with. And by the way, Jalen Reagor was a double catcher. That was the one issue coming out of TCU. And I know I know it's funny. Reagor was quoted as having revenge. What he means is this is the team that traded him. Not that he's not in the rotation yet at wide receiver. He just got there. It's just a punt returner right now. But so getting back to the matchups, So again, we don't have access to their game plan, but this is not Donatel's not a big blitzer, so it's more deception and making the quarterback hold of the football. We know we've known for months it's an RPO offense. It's exactly what we saw last week. I don't expect much to change. They did come out throwing pretty heavy the first half. I expect that to happen. In fact, some of those dropbacks obviously were called passes, but he wound up running because they got in so quickly. See, here's a question. They were heavy 12 personnel last week. We as we said on the pregame show, Calcaterra's inactive because they want
Tungiai to block.
To block, right? Yep. So here's a question for you: Do they do that this game?
Well, I think they would and should, because if they had a fear of the Lions being more aggressive, and by the way, that was smart of them. I mean, you can watch Hard Knocks. You don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I think that they accurately, even though there was confusion on the O-line, because there's going to be unscouted blitzes, but they accurately understood and game planned as if the Lions were going to attack the crap out of them somehow in some way. And so smart to bring up Tungiai like that and have yourself an extra blocking tight end. And if we're being fair, I think the Vikings pass rushers are as good, if not better. Their top three guys. I mean, Danielle Hunter is a very good pass. Danielle is a very good pass rusher. Jenarius Smith. I watched some of his tape from the opening game against Green Bay. Guy looked like he was shot out of a cannon. He's long and athletic.
You know what's interesting? Yeah, he is long. You know what's interesting about him? You know how so the Eagles and Vikings are running Vic's scheme.
Right.
But the Eagles signed Reddick, who's a smaller player. Jenarius Smith is 270. He's a big dude, as you just said.
Yep.
So I just found that fascinating when I was breaking down for our notes for this matchup and the intel.
Right.
It's very interesting how they see it differently with size there.
And Greg Cosell, who will be a part of our pregame show, by the way, we did a segment with him, so make sure don't think he's not going to be there. DJ Wanham, another pass rusher, a fourth round pick from 2020. He likes his size and speed and his ability to rush the passer too. So you put those three together and on the field, and Dalvin Tomlinson's and he's not a great pass rusher, but he's a big beefy guy up front. So this is not a piece of cake front seven. And if Detroit's wasn't either, and they were defending it by bringing up Tungia, you'd have to think they would do it again, don't you think?
Well, yeah.
Or at least play 12 personnel. I mean,
I would think a lot of 12. Yeah. In fact, yeah. Well, they don't have to make a decision until Sunday because it's that the roster moves have to be in. But actually, no. I'm sorry. It's actually, this is the strangest rule.
Oh, I know, because the Monday night, yeah.
It's weird. But you're allowed to actually make roster moves by 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Yeah, this has been in vogue for years, where teams will wait and they will actually. You could wait to do everything, practice squad and sign offs to your roster on Monday by 4 p.m. Eastern. So, they don't have to do anything Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, this has been the rule for years. The NFL has some very odd rules which make you scratch your head, but we'll see what they do.
But one thing, I'm just, Adam, now that I've talked myself out of maybe what I thought, the fact that the Vikings are not going to blitz, most likely, as much as the Lions did, because fundamentally that's not what they do, then it sort of does lessen the need for the extra blocking tight end. Like the blocking tight end is there in case they send more than you've got to block. Yeah. But if they're not going to send more, then maybe you don't need it. So now I've talked myself into maybe why you wouldn't need Tungia.
Well, here's the deal, though. I mean, obviously, Stoll's your in 12. He's the second tight end,
right?
Now again, do they need 3 tight ends? The other things you want to be careful. To go in with 2 tight ends every week is dangerous because then you're shot. You can't run 12. So that's the thing that you look at with that. So so that's and then the linebackers. When Hurts, assuming they're going to keep doing the RPOs, which they do, done a ton of it. You've got old friend Jordan Hicks, who was signed. He starts at one of the inside linebacker jobs. Eric Kendricks is terrific. So they're really good there. We know Hicks could always cover. He's older now. Phillips, as you mentioned, Harrison Phillips comes over from Buffalo. He's a good football player, 97.
Yep.
Blacklock, Ross Blacklock was a draftee of the Texans who they acquired at the 53 deadline. And Paul Allen told me they kept James Lynch over Robinson. The Eagles signed off their practice squad. That's who they kept over. James Lynch was a draftee out of Baylor in 2020.
Yeah.
And man, with Hunter and Smith as stand-up overhangs. They are long. Hunter has been good from day one. Boy, Rick nailed that one. Rick Spielman. He was drafted in 2015. He's a stud.
He is a good player. So when we talk about the Vikings secondary, it has some good players in Harrison Smith. I think Patrick Peterson is not as what he used to be. I mean, he would have been
not even close.
Toast by Christian Watson if Watson had caught the ball. However,
go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, Greg. I'd asked Greg. Said I heard Peterson shouldn't even be starting anymore. He goes, he just doesn't run well anymore. You could get right by him. In fact, Greg was surprised that they re-signed him. When I remember I talked to Greg about Peterson in the spring.
Right.
And in fact, Cam Dantzler's a tall guy who doesn't run very well at all. He's been in and out. The former staff benched him, put him back in, benched him. So to me, this is where the Eagles are going to make the money. If they could protect, the players are absolutely there against the.
Yeah, I mean, I think their intentions were pretty obvious when they drafted 3 defensive backs in their first 4 or 5, right? They drafted Lewis Seen, they drafted Andrew Booth, and they drafted Caleb Evans out of Missouri. And I'm guessing they're just trying to coach these guys up in the early part of the season to hopefully have them more ready by the time, I don't know, week 4 or week 5 comes along. But I will also say, I don't think, because they're not going to blitz nearly as much as the Lions, we suspect, I also think you won't see A.J. Brown single covered, manned up by any of these guys nearly as much as you saw it in the Lions game. So everybody's asked about, well, where's Devontae Smith? How come Dallas Goedert only had 3?
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be a criticism.
We played
pretty
Goddard,
obvious.
Goddard was blocking. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, not every snap, but I mean,
no, but he was kept in. They played so much. They kept him in a lot.
What, 22% of 12%? It's not like the whole game was 12%.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is he he was in a lot.
I see. Even when they were 11, you're right. He was in line. Okay, my fault. I got what you're saying. My bad. My bad. Yeah, but so the bigger point I'm trying to make is you said that you're right. If they had thrown it to him 20 times, you would have caught 17. There was single coverage on one of the better receivers in the NFL all day long in an offense suited to get him the ball quickly. I don't think you're going to see that time of coverage and risk that the Lions took from the Vikings. So you're going to have to see, if the Eagles want to move the ball, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you're going to have to see Devontae Smith and or Dallas Goedert be more involved in the passing game.
Oh, 100%. In fact, I'm going to ask Greg before the show if they move their corners, or do they just keep them static on sides? I would like to know that. Peterson's the guy I'm going after all night. In fact, Danzler doesn't run well. He's just really tall.
Right.
To me, I'd still rather go against Peterson because he's an older corner.
Mm-hmm.
At 32 years old, I don't know that he'll make the Hall of Fame, but he obviously has had a very good career. So yeah, that again, if they can protect, I'm going after those guys. Now, here's another question. Last week, I don't know what the Packers were doing. I know they were getting blown out, but Aaron Jones had very few touches. I know that LaFleur was disappointed. He said he's got to do a better job of getting him the ball. But to me, it's not, you don't need to be pass happy, but, obviously you want to come out passing when you're running it early on.
Mm-hmm.
These guys Hicks, though he's older now at 30, could still move, and Kendricks absolutely could move. So I do wonder, is it how they're going to attack with those running backs here? I don't know if they'll catch the ball very much. And here's the other one for you. Will they have a 3-man rotation?
Well, I asked you the money question in the pregame show. The Eagles had 3 running backs active. Will all 3 get at least 1 carry? You said yes, and you were right. So they actually had 3 running backs. So it was more than just a 2-man running game. All 3 got carries and were involved. I don't know that that's going to change too much. I only because why wouldn't you have given the ball more to Miles Sanders? And week 1 is the time to give the ball to Miles Sanders. He's fresh. I know he was coming off the hamstring, but he looks certainly dynamic and ready to go. I don't know. Maybe they'll take sort of a lesson learned from week 1 and give the ball to Miles a little bit more, call runs a little bit more instead of RPOs. And again, I've talked to a few people about this. No one said that's a bad idea. It's just every once in a while, one series, start off under center like they did it last year.
Oh, yeah.
Under center and, let Jalen Hurts turn around and hand the ball off to our running back, Miles Sanders, whatever, and let your offensive line maul. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're telegraphing a run because you are, but you've also put 2 tight ends out, 5 offensive line, and you have a dynamic running back. You should be able to win some battles there when you do that.
It's funny because I remember last year, you and I don't know how many straight weeks you said, could you just line them up under center a little bit? And they finally did it.
Yeah.
And boy, did it work well. It's a changeup. We know RPOs. We were told very strongly in the spring it's going to be RPO-based offense again, even more so. Okay. And that's what it looks like so far. I don't see that changing. Maybe a little bit of zone read where it's RPOs run pass option, where zone read is you either hand it off or the quarterback runs. It's to me, you got to go with what you think you could work. And man, Scott looked good. Gainwell, by the way, we should mention he did look good. The tape we heard was pretty good. He was decisive, downhill. So I'm with you, man. 3 backs should work, but the only reason why I brought the running backs in the pass game, I wonder if they see any matchups they can get because they've got really good linebackers. I don't know if they'll be there. And again, as I said in the Packer game against the Vikings, Aaron Jones, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I mean, he's a stud in the pass game. They didn't get him the ball.
Yeah, no, it was very surprising. Very surprising. I have a feeling the second time around is going to be a little bit different in that game, but that'll probably be several weeks from now. All right, so we pretty much talked about the Eagles, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, what they're going to do offensively.
Just want to give a couple notes, just a couple things. But again, just before you get to the offensive line a little bit, and then get to the defense, the other matchups, the reverse. I'm going early and often against Peterson, and I'll get Dantzler. I know Harrison Smith, and he's an older player, still very good. Gannon knows him, obviously, coached him. They got him, by the way, in the championship game badly. They had a tell on him, and there was something that they found out in tape. It's unbelievable they got him as badly as they did in that championship game. And that was 5 years ago. But to me, if protect, throw the football. That's it. That's what I'm going after these corners. That's where your bread and butter's going to win. That's how they're going to win this game. Throwing it and also getting Goddard involved. He's got to get more involved. And you know what? Quez Watkins. Why not him too?
Yeah. So I'm fascinated also on how they employ Harrison Smith, because under Zimmer's regime or presiding over the defense, he was maybe the best safety at lining up at the line of scrimmage, looking like he was going to blitz, and then at the snap, dropping back about 20 yards and still providing as good coverage as a deep safety as you can get. And he moved all around, and half the time, I would say more than half the time, wherever he started was not where he was going to wind up in that defense. He was such a great movable piece. You're right. The Eagles definitely found something on him in the NFC Championship game, but for the most part, he's been an all-pro safety because he's so versatile. And not just that, what that does for a defense and a quarterback is you're looking at one thing and you're like, oh, okay, the coverage is cover one because the second safety is right here at the line of scrimmage about to blitz me. And then even if it's not, if you get the quarterback thinking, even if he drops back, he's so close to the line of scrimmage, I'm going to have time to throw that over his head. But he's great at making that not happen. So he makes you read the defense. He makes you question what you're reading, and then you actually have to execute it after the snap anyway. So I think that he's been one of the better guys in the game at really causing some confusion for quarterbacks. So it'll be very interesting to see how he's used here against the Eagles offense.
The post-snap disguise is the staple of the defense that Fangio runs and Donatello will run. So you're right to bring that up. That would be my one concern with Hurts. But the you know what? It's good that he faces stuff like that. This is I know people want to know, is this a litmus test? I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely a much better matchup in terms of being stressed a little bit. The Lions corners are below average. That was an amazing matchup they got, and they got it with AJ Brown. In fact, if they had they hit, there was 32 attempts. Had this game been even closer, I mean, you could have thrown the ball 40 times and probably put up 400 yards against those corners. Yeah. They're not very good. Right. Whereas here, they don't run well, but the Vikings have better natural pass rush. You mentioned those three big guys, the tall stand up outside linebackers. Right. We're basically DNs now that you're standing up, and this is an excellent matchup. This is again about as even as you get.
Yeah, the question the Vikings have to confront is how do we protect our cornerbacks who aren't very good without giving up massive running yards to the running backs and the quarterback. Because if we play our safeties deep to protect our corners, we're showing light boxes that we're going to get run on all the time. If we bring safeties up to stop the run, then they're going to throw the ball over our heads down the field against our cornerbacks in man defense. So it'll be a really good cat and mouse game to watch. All right, so that's going to finish it off for the offense. What do we have on the offensive line? And I mean, we know they got
the only thing I was going to say, we kind of touched on this in passing, but just to finish it off, what I'm going to be interested to see is it was what I was talking about with Goddard. Will they have him in as much? See, coaches by trade don't want to have to max protect. They don't want to have to keep guys in all the time.
Right.
Now that they have the bad tape from last week with we pointed out. Let me see. We heard Mailata didn't play great. Simalo didn't play great, but this is all correct, very easily correctable. So now they correct this stuff. Will they keep the tight end? Will they play more 11 personnel? Because Watkins was a non-factor in that game. He's our one true deep threat. And I'll tell you, you could run, but as you said, Christian Watson ran right by Pat Pete.
Yeah.
Maybe they try and shot play.
I think they will. I think you're definitely going to see more 11 personnel and more of an attempt at vertical offense off the RPO in the game for what you said. I don't think the Vikings are going to blitz. If they do, they're not going to throw 7 guys at you. They might throw 5 guys at you. And that's still not a reason to max protect. You got 5 offensive linemen. You can block a 5-man rush. You got 6 defensivers coming at you. You need somebody to stay in. But I don't see the Vikings putting their corners in such a bind by throwing 6 guys at Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. So I do think that there'll be more opportunities to put the ball down the field. And there should be on that on both sides. So as we talk about the Vikings offense here against the Eagles defense, before we get into that, I'll remind you about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you're checking them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you go down to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. And check them out at skymotorcars.com. If you are not in the area, you can just get on the website and hook them up there too. All right, so this Eagles defense against this Viking offense, I think my biggest concern, big picture wise, about this matchup, Adam, is that while everything we talked about is correctable, right? That we, the gap integrity and things like that, we saw it last year. You see it again, the first guy. Like, I don't think that this thing gets ironed out in 1 week. Like, all of a sudden, they take the field on Monday night and they're like 180 difference. They're like the 85 Bears against the run, where every gap is covered immediately and smothered. So I think this is almost like walking into a buzzsaw for them if they don't figure this out better, because that's a great running back and a great running game that they're going to be facing. That's going to set up an even better passing game, play action passing game.
I would say this, and you got two proud defensive tackles, Hargrave and Cox. They have to be disappointed with their tape.
I hope so.
I would expect them to bounce back. We were told pretty strongly we'll clean it up. It was not good.
No,
it was not good. It's rare to see Fletcher Cox moved off the ball repeatedly. That's not good. That was a major.
Let me add to that, because the big run on the first series where DeAndre Swift were ripped off 50 yards, TJ Hawkinson, a tight end, good tight end, but a tight end nonetheless.
He can block.
He wham blocked Javon Hargrave completely out of the, like, to a point where it's like, wait a minute. I know that there's there's going to be discussions about alignment and, are they playing in the right spots as they should be? But, you're a 300-pound defensive tackle. Maybe your defensive coordinator has you aligned a little differently, like 6 inches from where it doesn't matter. You got to get off a tight end's block. You can't be driven back 5 yards. That's not right. I can't buy alignment as an excuse for that one.
The people we spoke with, who are grading Eagles tape, they were surprised. I know it's week 1, but they were not expecting Hargrave and Cox not to play well. Obviously, Ragnar's really good. The people I spoke with did not think the line was as good. We've already know this, that Sewell's not very good. He's a well below average pass protector, much better run. In fact, there were a lot of teams that thought he should be a guard. Actually, Cosell talked about that in our show. Greg does not think super highly of Sewell. It's a new position for him. Also, we have to understand that. But the fact of the matter is, so they're facing one of the youngest lines in the NFL, other than Bradbury, who's not worked out as a former first-round pick. He's undersized. He's kind of underachieved. Darrisaw's going to be a stud left tackle. Remember, he had groin surgery last year. He was down for a bit in the regular season.
Yep.
Then he was playing later on. Brian O'Neill's been a great story.
Yeah.
Former tight end.
Yep.
Who was a left tackle in college, moved to right in the NFL, and he's put bulk on. He got a contract extension. He's been a great story of development. Ezra Cleveland, Spielman also drafted. Ed Ingram, who I know Greg likes. So look, they're young, they're talented. But here's what someone told me on Thursday when I was getting some good stuff for the show. This guy played in the league. He said, "Here's the issue with this offensive line. They're very young. Young lines have trouble communicating in hostile environments when they're not at home. And what Gannon should do is definitely disguising way more than he did last week. He did a little, but not anywhere nearly the amount he should have done. And make it not only hard on Cousins, but make it hard for that line, because it's going to be loud as hell. And they probably have not gone through. Ingram's brand new. Darrisaw's first year's a full-time starter. These guys are going through it here, and you make them earn it. And that's what this guy told me. He goes, I'm telling you. He goes, yeah, they're talented, but you want to take advantage of Philly being at home. I'm like, all right, I'll mention that.
Sure. Well, listen, I agree with what your source said, and I would say this: if I'm Kevin O'Connell, and I know that my line is talented but young, and we're on the road in a hostile environment, and there's going to be a lot of crowd noise. And then I just watched a team steamroll the Eagles up the middle, around this everywhere, for over 180 rushing yards. If he doesn't at least come out and try to run the ball heavily on the first series to see if they've got that strength, and to take the pressure off his line, to have to use the silent count, and to also use a strength against what looked bad for the Eagles, then he's an idiot if he doesn't try to do that. I mean, you've got Dalvin Cook, and again, you're, like you said, you're trying to take the pressure off your line, have the silent count, and your quarterback to hear everything. Run the ball, see if it works. First series.
Well, heavy. I don't know about heavy, but yeah, I'm definitely. I'm going to work
heavy for today's game. You know, my first 5 plays, run 2 or 3 times, set up the play. Especially,
maybe so. But they got to get him going because he's super gifted.
Yep.
He's also really good in the pass game, very underrated as a pass catcher.
True.
And if I'm O'Connell who calls the plays, I'm coming out getting Cook involved in the pass game. I'm gonna test. I know White was terrific. Kaiser White was terrific in coverage. That's what the tape showed.
Mm-hmm.
And get TJ Edwards. I know he's improved as a coverage guy, but let's see him do it against a really talented back. Swift got them a little bit last week, not as much as I thought that he would. Cook could get them, no doubt about it. He's super gifted. And yeah, look, if you shut him down, you make Cousins beat you. Now, Cousins has had some amazing games, even going back to when Nick Foles played him, when Foles was the starter in 2014, I think, with Washington.
Yeah.
When Nick was the Eagles quarterback, or whatever the heck it was. But and he got them in 2018 when DeFilippo was the OC. John, I remember talking to John about that. He called a bomb from like their own end zone. Maybe they had it at the 2-yard line, and
yep,
Cousins hit it on the right sideline. I don't remember who the hell it was.
It was Stephon Diggs, I believe.
Diggs, yeah, okay. There you go. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was a gutsy call. So this guy's fearless, and Greg Cosell was telling me, Greg's like, this guy's just a really solid quarterback. He doesn't make the dumb bonehead plays anymore,
right?
Like he used to. But we'll see.
For the life of me, I cannot figure out why Kirk Cousins is a joke to a lot of football fans outside of Minnesota. I was looking at his numbers, and I know you don't always measure somebody by numbers, but they also, I mean, if you're a bad quarterback, you got bad numbers. But he's since he became a starter in 2015. 5th in the NFL in passer rating, 4th in touchdown passes, 2nd in completion percentage, 3rd in passing yards. I mean, like, you don't. And by the way, his interception, everybody thinks he's like some careless quarterback. I don't know where that came from. His interception percentage is the 5th best among quarterbacks as well. It's under 2. It's like 1.8%. And he's, by the way, Eagles fans love to ridicule him, and he's 6-3 against the Eagles. 67% completion passage. Okay. 21 touchdowns against the Eagles. 21 touchdowns. I know he was in the same division, but my God.
In 6 games?
In 9 games. 9 games.
9 games. Oh, okay. Oh, he's 6-3. My bad. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a 104.9 passer rating against the Eagles.
Well, look. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, we let's move on from the running game. So the next thing, and this is obviously the big deal. This is it. How are you going to deal with Jefferson? Because I think they played sides last week. I think they played their matchup zone. I think they played sides. I don't think that the corners traveled past their area, past the one side of the field. So I'm making Jefferson. I'm doubling Jefferson. He's unbelievable. Other than Cup, he's right now. Chase is also obviously great, but man, he is so smooth and incredible, and he's still's got that chip on his shoulder. Not just because the Eagles passed on him, it's because he was the last guy of the recruiting class to LSU for his freshman year, and guy's an absolute superstar.
He's a stud. He's a great route runner. He's gonna probably get whether the Vikings win or lose. He's going to get a lot of targets and probably a bunch of catches and yards. That will be my
in front of you.
My going out on the limb prediction is that Justin Jefferson's going to have a lot of and a lot of yards.
I still got to double him. Thielen's a fine possession receiver, but he's also 32.
Yeah.
He's up there. Obviously, very good football player. But an Osborne kid's a possession plus player. That means he's not fast at all, but he's a possession guy who can run after the catch pretty well. They really like him. Paul Allen said he had an incredible camp. So that look, they're going to be challenged here. There's no doubt. The Eagles defense collapsed in the second half after a pretty good first half, other than the first drive. Those 3, the Eagles dropped their zone drops were terrific in the first half. Boy, Goff had no idea where to go with the football. They did a great job in the second half. They played soft, almost blew the game. I'm so fascinated by the way that Gannon and Jenarius Wilson on the back end as the DB's coach and what their approach is.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating. Are there any, if they double Jefferson, when we say double, meaning sort of slide a safety in that direction, bracket it. If they're playing zone, you have the linebacker drop into the area where you think, based on the route that Jefferson's going to be. That leaves Adam Thielen. Is there anybody? Who's the tight end? Is it Irv
Smith, who's
Irv
been
Smith, right?
Yeah, he's had some injuries. I mean, he had the torn meniscus last year, so he didn't do anything. But
right,
he had a minor injury in training camp. He's good to go now. He's very athletic, more athletic than his dad, Irv Senior.
Okay,
but he's a seam guy. He didn't do much last week, but I'm glad you brought him up. Good job, because he's a guy who could get the Eagles a little bit. Eagles' worst defense in the NFL last year against tight ends by production. Last week they did an excellent job. Kaiser White, give him credit, against Hawkinson. They really kept him down for the most part. But this kid runs faster from a straight line. Irv Smith, he's a seam guy. I'm very interested to see what they do with him. So you're right. It's their pass target group. The Eagles now with CJ Gardner-Johnson here. He'll be a factor. Again, this is so even. I cannot wait to see how they approach this.
So one other guy I would keep my eyes on, especially if the Vikings are doing a good job running the football like the Lions did, is Alexander Mattison, because he'll get his snaps as a backup, and he's a good running, good powerful guy. Has a little bit of a runs with a hard edge. I like him. He's good at pass protection too. So I would, if the Vikings are doing a good job running the ball against the Eagles, they're probably going to want to get like the Thunder combination in there and get Mattison a few carries.
And if they get a lead, he has on occasion been their 4-minute back, not Cook, over the years. Right. He's on the final year of his rookie deal. And the kid Ty Chandler is, if you play fantasy, he's a guy you want to look at in what we call dynasty leagues, because Madison's on the final year. Cook, the Vikings could get out of his contract. There's no more guaranteed money after the season. Not that they're going to, but this staff inherited him, and he's had a major injury history. Great talent, but he gets hurt a lot. Had a lot of knee injuries.
Right.
So, but look, to me, it's if you're the Eagles, can you get to Cousins, because he's not the most mobile guy. Oh, the one negative from him is he throws short of the sticks a bunch. It's been a stat that's out there. He, for some reason, over the years with the Vikings in particular, he's they'll call the play, and on some third downs, he just, for some reason, it's right before the line to gain.
What former Eagle quarterback does that remind you of?
Not Mike McMahon. Don't.
No. Not a little more recent than that. There was a quarterback who was infamous for doing that.
I know this. Who the hell is it?
Sleeves. Sammy the Sleeves Bradford.
Oh, Sam Bradford.
Sammy Sleeves was infamous for throwing it a couple of yards short of the sticks. Yep.
We haven't talked about him probably in 4 years.
for a guy who was a number 1 overall pick, you're right. He just kind of came here and went, and he's just one of the few guys that just don't pop up in a whole lot of like random. We've probably talked about Randall Goforth more than we talked about.
You mentioned about
we probably
go forth, young man.
Ellis Hobbs and OJ Atagwe, and the endless list of corners and safeties and linebackers that they've ran through.
That was the first time I'm going to look it up. You've not talked about Ellis Hobbs before. I'm sorry.
I think I've mentioned Ellis Hobbs before.
I don't know about that.
No, what about Marcus?
How about Bradley the Animal Fletcher?
Bradley the Animal Fletcher?
Frank the Animal Fletcher was a boxer.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, Bradley Fletcher was a starting corner too. He was just not very good.
He was tall, but he didn't run very well.
We've talked about Nolan Carroll on this podcast more than Sam Brad, a number 1 overall pick quarterback, and we don't ever talk about it. It's amazing. Mike Vick, we talk about. He was a number 1 Vick quarterback. Donovan McNabb, we still talk about, right?
Sure.
Carson Wentz, we still talk about. He wasn't number 1, but number 2. But still, what a most unassuming 1-year career he had here in Philadelphia. It was crazy. All right.
In fact, remember when he was so upset when they made the trade up with Cleveland to get all the picks.
Right.
I mean, to give away the picks to move up to get Wentz. He left camp. He was so upset.
Yeah.
What a crazy story.
Wow. Yeah, very crazy. All right, it's judgment time, Adam. Why don't you give me a score for this game?
Yeah, we covered everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see. I was right last week. I thought Eagles in terms of over under. I had it going over the total.
You did.
This
Oh,
week a little
I'm
different.
sorry. Hold on. Hold your thought because I have not. I like to announce what the line and the spread is before we even give our picks. I think I said already it was 2.5 as far as the line that I had seen. I just want to make sure I got the over under correct before I go any further. What is this? Is NFL? Is it still 2.5? Is the big question to me here, and it is now. Oh, it's Monday night, so I got to scroll. Yeah, it's 2, so it's gone down a little bit. Eagles are favored by 2 on Bet Rivers, and it's in there. It's another. I think this is a pretty high scoring total, Adam, at 50 and a half.
I saw that.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I've got it under. I got it 23-17. Birds. Now I'll tell you, the reason why I like the Eagles in this game. We all got it right. All 4 of us in the pregame got it right, correct?
Yes. Okay.
Now, of course, I technically have the Eagles covering. I think at some point the crowd is going to be a factor.
Mm-hmm.
I just do. And Kevin O'Connell's a rookie head coach. I just feel like it's even as someone's going to decide it. I think the crowd's going to be the 12th man here, and I think in fact, I can't remember last time I talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the crowd's gonna be out of their mind. It's Monday Night Football, and by the second of the double header, second week of the season,
right?
And it is at 8:30, and I just believe there's gonna be a factor. And not that Cousins has played at the Linc, of course he has several bunch of times, but I just think they're gonna be a factor, and I think Gannon will do a better job than he did last season, particularly in the second half. And obviously, if he doesn't, the heat will get up higher for this guy.
I also have you said you have the Eagles covering. That's correct. I actually have the Vikings covering because they're winning outright. I have the Vikings winning 26-23 in this game.
Under. I can see it.
Yeah, still under. Which doesn't make sense. You would think if the Vikings win, they probably win a shootout. But that's how I'm calling it.
It's a high score. It's under, but it's still
I do think that's kind of a high score. So even though it's under the total, so I think total's a little high there. 26-23. I just don't have trust that the Eagle defense is going to be cured in 1 week.
So. I agree. It's I know the Heat. Everyone. It's funny because in our poll on for our Twitter account at Inside Birds, I voted for who's got more heat, or more to whatever it was, more to prove, or was more pressure on them.
Oh, you did?
Pressure. I voted for Gannon. I'm until this guy proves that he could be a good play callings that aren't again. Always remember that. I was taught that many years ago, and boy, is that right when I was told that by a former coordinator.
Yep.
Was in the league for many years, calling plays, and he said, "I'm telling you, man, it's not for everybody. You either have it or you don't." He said, you'll learn. You kind of learn on the job. You have an idea, but you have to learn from your mistakes. You have to accept that you did not do a good job and make corrections. And that was an abomination in the second half last week. Like we'd said leading up to the game, Jared Goff is a target. He's not a moving target, but he's a target. He doesn't move very well. You should be able to get to this guy. And they did a good job in the first half, relatively, other than the first drive. Second half was a disaster. And that's not. I don't care that they played soft coverage because they're up 17. That's an excuse. This guy did not do a great job last year. I understand he didn't have the great personnel. This year's got very good personnel. Front office cannot do any more than they've done. The guy's got to get the job done. This is not an look. This is a tough test. I get all that, but you know what? You got the talent to handle this stuff.
Yeah, and you're at home, especially. You'll have the noise and the crowd in your advantage. All right, we will talk about it more. We'll break it down more. We'll have a few more news and nuggets and things on Monday night, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. on our social media networks, specifically our YouTube channel. A lot of people like to watch it from, so we encourage you watching it from there. Again, Adam, myself, Jason Avant, and Trey Thomas being a special guest. He's already fired up and ready to go. He's breaking down.
Can't wait.
He told me he's like breaking. You know how he does those O-line, D-line breakdowns. He's like, I got clips. I'm like, great, bring everything.
Hey, listen. He and Jason is because Greg and Jason were absolutely phenomenal last week. We're I guess you could say we're blessed. We're unbelievably lucky, and we folks, again, before we get out of here, keep supporting us. We take a lot of the money we get, we put it back in the company to bring Trey in, Greg, Avant, others, Quentin Q, other players were trying to get involved. Our website, everything, and keep supporting us, and we put it back in. So we are so thankful and grateful for everyone's support. It's been sort of overwhelming. We had no idea when we started this 5 years ago where this thing would go, and it just keeps getting bigger. And folks, it's because of you guys, so we appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate it. All right, again, no Monday morning podcast coming up in a few days. There's games Monday night, so we will have the pregame show and the postgame show. But until then, just make sure you're reading InsideTheBirds.com. Subscribe to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. And of course, follow us both on Twitter and on our Inside the Birds Twitter account @InsideBirds. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank our producer, Tyler Strasser. He does an amazing job. And we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.